was a little girl, and she had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. And when she was bad, she was... The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, starring Jodie Foster, the sensation of Taxi Driver, and Bugsy Malone, in another superb performance as Wren, who seemed all sugar and spice, but something not so nice was buried out in her garden. You can thank heaven for little girls, but you can thank hell for the little girl who lives down the lane. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested.
Good evening and welcome to episode number 3 of Constriction Pictures, the horror movie podcast. If you're new to Constriction Pictures, I'm your host Bob, and kind of what we do here is, we sit around, watch a horror movie, we talk about it, kind of the vibe of going to the video store in the 80s, and as I said on the last episode, I was going to have a very special guest very soon, and this is that episode. With me right now is the lovely Jennifer Rubin from A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, many other projects, but everybody knows her and loves her as Taryn White from Nightmare 3. So, hello, Jennifer.
Hello, Bobby. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for being here. Literally being here. So on tonight's episode, we literally, not figuratively or, as the podcast usually works, but we literally just watched The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane, starring Jodie Foster, which came out in 1976, 77. And this was your pick, right?
Yes.
And
all my life, loved this movie.
Awesome. I love it. And thank you for picking that, because it's something that I actually have had in my collection for a while and never actually watched. So thank you for doing that.
Mm.
So again, regarding Constriction Pictures, we're on YouTube, obviously. You're listening to us on YouTube right now. We have 11 subscribers, so thank you for, everybody out there listening. On the last episode, we talked about Nightmare 3 with our good friend Brittany, and right now, like I said, we're going to talk about The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane. And, it's one of Jodie Foster's. It looks like she did about 5 films in 1976. Is that a normal schedule for, filmmaking when you're 13 years old?
What were do you know the other 5? Other 4 pictures she did that year?
Definitely Taxi Driver was one of them. Let's see here. I'm just going to quickly scroll through here. Bugsy Malone, Freaky Friday, and Echoes of a Summer.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
Yeah. So The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane, it's, we were just talking about this, how, is it really a horror film? And there's some points in it that are very Hitchcockian. And spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about some spoilers here, because obviously with this particular film, you really can't talk about it without giving things away. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay. So what about, let's talk about the first time you saw it. Do you remember that?
Well, it would be when I was a freshman in high school, or it would have been my 8th grade class. And I grew up with Jodie Foster. I don't know if we're about the same age, but we probably are. And because I still remember her copper tone billboard. And but this movie I saw, and it stayed with me because I think being a young girl, and I don't know if it was just because of the 70s. Which is, the 70s were a very violent time in America.
Right.
And what she's dealing with are those kind of crazy scenarios of, because Martin Sheen is in there, coming at her as like a pervert and killing and stuff. But I don't know, it just seemed to me, it may be a little whack, but she seemed really empowered, calm, cool, and collect, and doing, I guess having a happier childhood than other children. I don't know, that doesn't even make any sense, but it's something that she just seemed like, I don't know, I always wanted to be her in that film, just being alone and being able to be alone and be okay being alone and really not having to deal with like she says in the movie, people try to change you or make you into what they want you to be. Mm-hmm. And she had her own self-interest. And I think I had that too. And I think that's probably why I liked that movie so much.
Excellent. So you saw a little bit of yourself in her character?
Yeah.
Very cool.
In that one too, yeah.
It's interesting too that you said it's the 70s because, watching it, I was a little uncomfortable in certain scenes. And obviously with this movie, I think the big thing you mentioned Martin Sheen, and Martin Sheen is a bastard in this movie. He's a pervert on every... I think he's probably at what, like maybe a 10 or 11, do you think? On the scale?
Sure.
There's also a scene in here that we're talking about trivia. There's and I guess this goes back to the 70s as well, where things were a little looser with filmmaking. And there's a scene where there's a little bit of nudity, and of course Jodie Foster is 13 years old, and the kind of trivia part about it is that her older sister did that nude scene, and it's a quick flash. It's done tastefully, I would say, but still a little tastefully, right? It's not.
Well, no, it was done very well. Yeah. But the thing is it showed some side boob,
mm-hmm.
and I thought that her boob is much bigger than it looks in her clothes, because she just had little boobs and her 13-year-old boobs. And
her sister looked like she had a wig on in that scene. She had like her Jodie Foster wig.
Oh.
But it's interesting because that scene, I think it's there to make viewers uncomfortable. Would you?
I really wasn't uncomfortable.
No.
I wasn't uncomfortable with it. I think I was more uncomfortable with the adults being so mean and bullying
mm-hmm.
to such
mm-hmm.
a kid, to a kid. And he was such a great guy, this magician.
Right.
I don't know the actor's name.
Scott Jacoby.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I wonder if he's the Jacoby that plays in all the Shakespeare movies, like Kenneth Branagh's productions.
Let me see.
I wonder. Look and see.
He did a film, a TV movie in the 70s called Bad Ronald, which 1974, and that's sort of a cult hit. It's especially in the horror world of people collecting films and stuff. It's one of those ones that was sort of hard to come by, or maybe bootleg for years, and then Warner Brothers finally put it out as their sort of manufacture on demand kind of series where you could get it on DVD. But yeah, he's been around for a long time. He's been doing stuff. Looks like he stopped doing films in like the early 90s.
So it's not the same guy.
Yeah, but he was in.
Yeah, he has a little pinched face, and this guy has a bit longer face.
Okay. Yeah, this guy also did. He did a couple of horror pictures in the 80s. He did The Supernaturals and Return to Horror High, which actually had Mr. George Clooney. But I'm sure he likes to forget about that one. Yeah. But it's interesting too that you said about what you said about the adults, because and one thing too is this film's based on a novel, but the dialogue and even the it's all pretty much set in one setting in this house that Jodie Foster's character lives in, quote unquote.
You would think. Sorry to interrupt, but you would think that with the title of The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, mm-hmm. it would be the typical like spooky house,
right,
at the end of the lane, but it wasn't.
Right. It's and I'm trying to. And I wish we could have watched the trailer, but obviously we'll watch it after this. But the trailer kind of makes it almost. it kind of plays up that angle as like she's almost like do you remember that movie The Good Son with Elijah Wood and Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of that angle where, she's maybe a bad kid where she's up to no good. And obviously there's a few things. She's got a few skeletons in the basement, quite literally. I make jokes.
Yeah.
But it's not... And I thought it was actually distributed by American International Pictures, which was big in the 50s, 60s, and 70s with drive-in pictures and B movies and stuff. I thought they had put it out, but incidentally they didn't. But it's more like a thriller, and there's some Hitchcockian suspense in there. There's some scenes involving what I refer to as German soup, some cyanide in some tea.
Funny.
and I mean that scene was really good where there's some, she had put a little bit of the powder in the tea there, again spoiler alert.
But you know what, she didn't really have any problems.
No,
she was directed by her father to put it in her mother's tea without ever knowing what it was.
Right.
That was just directions from Dad, and it's all very... Her dad, you get the feeling that her dad was looking out for her from every angle for this 3 years until she becomes like an adult. So it's not the Damien with kid who just wants to kill for thrills. She just seemed like she's sticking to her father's plan, and then when the realtor comes over and gets banged on the head, that was her own fault.
Yep.
It wasn't even Jodie's fault, and the pedophile, Martin Sheen, that was just a necessity, which all the #MeToo should have done. No,
that's
joke, sorry.
No, hey, it's interesting because I couldn't help but not think of the whole #MeToo thing with the Martin Sheen character, because I mean, yeah, but I don't. I mean, for the sake of our chat, I don't think we need to get into that.
No. It really has nothing. No, I mean, it definitely has nothing to do with #MeToo. Right. Nothing at all. But it's just the theme of a vulnerable little girl and predators. Are she's new to town, so Cuckoo Bananas is going to notice her, but not necessarily. I mean, even the cop visiting all the time, even after meeting her father,
right?
Then, but otherwise it was like, geez, what's with all the interest,
Yeah, that was something that I noticed too. How all these adults keep stopping by the house and checking on her as if she's this fragile little girl. Where, and I think. Personally, when I look at Jodie Foster as an actress, it's like she always has that air of calm about her in her performances, like she knows what she's doing. And even in this movie where she's 13, she comes off as an adult, like just the way she plays her character throughout the entire picture. So it's kind of like she's not vulnerable at all. I mean, she's got her shit together. She's got her plan, like you said, from her dad. And these adults keep coming over and kind of meddling in her shit,
What's kind of funny about Jodie Foster is, Jodie Foster found Kristen Stewart. And when they did Panic Room together, that Kristen Stewart has that same self-possession that Jodie has.
Yes.
It's amazing that they found each other in this world, It's,
right.
I mean, that's off topic, but that self-possession is... She had a stage... Did Jodie Foster have a stage mother?
That I don't know. I
wonder. I think maybe she did, because Jodie was... Since she started as the Coppertone girl and all that, maybe that she was tutored all the time,
right.
And her mother looked after that. I don't know her personal life story, but anyway, yeah, people keep coming over to the house. That's maybe some limitations on the script, because the mean lady comes over, the realtor, and then I guess the nice enough cop, but still, it was a little like, why isn't he on the porch?
Right.
And but I think they're really back in 1976. I mean, being a child that age, I really did feel like they didn't treat children the way that they treat them today with such, I don't know if it's respect that they get now, but it's definitely not. It was more like what I would think more realistic, that movie.
Sure. Like almost like they had like kid gloves, would you say? Like they were checking on her? And the other cool thing too that I guess the other standout scene, not necessarily cool scene, going back to Martin Sheen as being, like I said, he's a total bastard in the movie. There's a scene where Jodie Foster has this little hamster named Gordon, he's a cute little hamster, and and again, to me that was very Hitchcock-like, where Martin Sheen lights up a cigarette and he goes and takes the hamster out of the cage, and we've seen enough movies where we know that's probably not a good thing, that he's got this little tiny hamster in his hand, and of course he uses the cigarette on the hamster, and the camera dollies in on his face so you don't see what's actually happening to the poor little hamster.
But he's on the second time they looked like that.
And I was reading about that, and that scene really messed with Jodie Foster. She was not happy about it, and I guess it gave her sort of the heebie-jeebies, even though allegedly that already was a dead hamster.
Oh.
Which, these days I don't think they would do that even with a dead hamster. They would have the special effects team make something. But,
right. Yeah, because the thing is when you saw it kind of was live, you could tell it was a live hamster, and then when he threw it into the fireplace, it was like, whoa. It really was. I mean, it was terrible to see.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because I think anybody that's ever had a little pet of some sort, whether it's a cat or a dog or a water newt or a hamster, you're gonna react to that, and that's gonna tug at your heartstrings a little bit, or definitely make you hate Martin Sheen, which incidentally he plays a lot of characters that I'm not too fond of. When I think back at his filmography.
Yeah. Well, the thing about him was when he comes in the beginning of the movie and starts it off at I think it's the first scene, right? Knock, knock, knock. It's Halloween, and he comes to the door. I mean, he was really convincing when he had the pumpkin candy holder where you put your trick or treat candy holder pail, like the jack-o'-lantern, the pail over his face, and then when he comes in. And he keeps looking out the window and wondering where his kids are. I was like, he doesn't have any kids.
Right.
And it was pretty interesting that they chose to, I mean, this is spoiler alert, but that they chose to have, well, you couldn't really distinguish if they were boys or girls, but I guess you could kind of tell they were boys by their, one was a goblin and one was Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Because later in the film, when you find that the realtor mother of Martin Sheen's character says, when I found out he was, nuts. This is not verbatim, but like when we found out he has like a pedophile problem, that she got him married, and you just think, oh my God, what?
Yeah.
That was really like crazy. But the thing is when you saw the kids, you just kind of go, oh, but I didn't think he had kids, and that was very convincing in the beginning.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking that too, that he was just making that shit up, and they just happened to be two kids that happened to be coming up to actually do trick or treat, but no, they were actually his kids.
Yeah, those were his kids, and this, I mean, you really can't take it into today about like he would only like girls,
Right, right.
Anyway, he would be horrible to live with, that character.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. One thing that I was a little disappointed about was that they didn't show the bodies in the basement. That's just me because I love the horror stuff, But I guess you didn't need to see that because, the movie was rated PG, which again was a 1970s PG, so they got away with a lot. But I really expected to see like sort of a shock shot of, like a decomposing corpse or something, when they went down to the basement. But the fact that you don't see that, again, plays back to that Hitchcock, sort of suspense vibe of, use your imagination of how badly decomposed this body is, even though Jodie Foster says that you can put stuff on the bodies, so they, obviously it would be like lime or something, right?
Right, yeah, to preserve the body. But I mean, with so much dialogue and like it being theater-esque, I can imagine. And also, too, you said it came from a book, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was on a book.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the book. I mean, I've never seen the book or, It'd be interesting to get that book. But, did I tell you one of these Comic-Cons which one was it? There's a guy, well, I see him all the time, but he has the best old school posters. And I have a huge European, like 6 foot by 4 foot poster of the little girl who lives down the way. I think I might put it up now in my house now that I remember, because I also confused it with another picture, because the one picture that I was thinking about, I know I had like a nanny type person, and I didn't like her very much. And in that one, and it was, remember the Others? Do you remember the Others? That movie?
The one with Nicole Kidman?
No, the one, but like, no, that was a different. Even though that was the same title, that movie was a lot different than the other one, because that Nicole Kidman one was where she was hallucinating, or she didn't know she was dead or something.
Right.
But the Others is like is another one of these plays like this movie, The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, where you're dealing with mean adults, and the kids have to do something to make them stop being mean to them. And she takes in the movie, I think it's called The Others. I don't know, because I thought it was The Little Girl Who Lives Down the Lane, because my favorite part was when she takes the rat and just puts it in front of her nanny's face, and then the nanny drops down, dies from shock.
Nice.
So I know that I was a bit angry back in the day. But I'm glad that when this lady gets conked on the head, that she dies.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, and like you said, it's her own damn fault for snooping around, really. So now, I guess moving on a little bit, I guess the elephant in the room then, you probably get tired of talking about Nightmare, but obviously we love you in Nightmare. We really do.
I don't get tired of it.
All right, awesome. So now, as I was saying, the last episode, I had
Brittany.
We had our good friend Brittany on, and
hi Brittany. Hi Brittany.
And she, we were just talking shop, and I think what we'll end up doing is we'll talk about 3, 4, and 5 all together, because they kind of go together. But one thing that I've noticed in the last couple of years with Nightmare 3 in particular, and your character of Taryn, Taryn has become a bit of an icon.
I know.
And it's really awesome. And you see, I mean, we've seen it personally, at shows where, whether it's a little girl dressed up in Taryn cosplay, or, even Brittany was, cosplaying as Taryn. But and I'm starting to see her on T-shirts, and it's amazing. And it's almost like you were an early icon for young, strong women. Have you ever kind of pondered that? I figured it out. I've watched it, but not at the time, and not for years and years and years. But I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder if it's because of the hairdo. Yeah, and one of the things, and with that Brittany was talking about too was how with those movies as fans we've projected ourselves onto these characters where it's maybe we can relate to the characters initially, but then especially in Dream Warriors where they literally become Dream Warriors, in their dreams they can be something more than they really are in real life. And obviously with Taryn, in her dreams she's beautiful and bad, and she's tough, where
Right.
when we first see her on screen, she's a little reserved, she's quiet, she's in the hallway kind of not talking to, Dr. Neil as he walks by. And, we're kind of like, oh, we don't really know much about her, and then,
Right.
and then, as we get to know her a little bit more, she speaks out a little more. And then, when she has the full reveal and the full costume with the incredible mohawk and the switchblades, she's tough. She doesn't take any shit from Freddy. And
Right.
that's the important thing. And I think maybe, for anybody, they can relate to that where they would want to be a little bit stronger and be like that.
I remember that. I'm looking because I'm in your hallway.
Yeah.
And on your, it's too far away for me to see, but is that a picture of Christy McNichol?
Probably if it's probably up in the blue room, maybe.
I don't know what room. I'm just laying up by the railing upstairs.
Yeah, it could be. Sandy probably has something related to Christy McNichol somewhere in the house.
I love Christy McNichol. That was my two girls, Christy McNichol and Jodie Foster.
Yeah.
They ruled the world.
Very cool.
My world, anyway.
But
go ahead.
Do they still rule your world?
Yeah, I'm very sentimental. I
Yeah.
really don't move on. Whatever happened before 1980 is 82. I would say is my favorite time of my life. 82 to 62.
Nice. I can relate to that. I mean, it's kind of like me as a especially being a horror movie fan. It's like modern stuff. I'm like, it's garbage. There's for me, there's a sweet spot from 1970 up to maybe 1992, somewhere around there. Where anything after that, I'm like, I don't really want to bother with it.
Yeah, we really did blossom there. That was the blossoming of that genre completely.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun to be alive and witness that.
Yeah, I can, man.
I think the equivalent would be disco, going from rock and then into disco, having its moment, and then going back to rock, so to speak. But that would be the thing, like, wow, this is new, and horror was brand new.
Oh yeah, big time.
But not like Bella. I'm not talking about the Bela Lugosi's and the real.
The classic stuff.
Not those, but like even those. I grew up with Dark Shadows on TV, Land of the Lost.
Yeah.
So there was aliens and there were horror films, but when I watched them, but I don't know, it just seemed like it really blossomed. I don't know.
Yeah, it's especially in the 80s, I think, when it started to get a little more, not mainstream, but the mainstream started to accept it a little more. And then, obviously with the whole Freddy thing, Freddy, he's bigger than Santa Claus.
Sorry to talk over you.
It's okay.
Maybe it was because there was a brand new horror star of being Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? Then you got didn't Pinhead and everybody else come after?
Yeah, Pinhead came after that. You had Michael and Jason and Leatherface, a little before Freddy was born in 84, but definitely he took the cake in terms of, being because he could speak. So, I think, and he translated very well for, especially me. When I saw 3, I was 5 years old. So 5-6 years old. So it hit me at the right moment,
Oh my gosh, 3 years old.
Yeah, I was a youngster. It's all good.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And I think personally it's affected me. It's like you were saying, where you have stuff from that certain time period in your life, and I think I have held on to the things that I liked as a kid that, it still makes me happy,
Yeah, totally.
It's the great thing about films,
Well, yeah, I get it now, because actually Taryn does, as far as going back a few sentences or talking before, we were, her being Taryn becoming like this icon, she does fight evil.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people run from evil, get afraid. They don't actually fight. I mean, the warriors fought. Everybody fought. But did they? I don't know.
Yeah, they did. I mean, and you think about it. You think about that. Of course, I hate to say that. Your death scene, because I mean, it's you. We love you. We don't want to see you die. But I mean, that's one of the all-time classic death scenes in the entire franchise. Really. I mean, totally. I can totally remember as a little kid, doing the thing with my fingers, sticking them up and going, "Let's get high." I mean, it was so, and not really knowing the context of what I was saying, but it was, it's so cool,
That is cool. That's so funny.
But yeah, I mean, in that scene when, when Freddy comes, Taryn finds herself, oh shit, I'm kind of in a back alley with Freddy, and she's like, you know what? Breaks out the switchblades and let's dance.
That's right.
And that's what I think was great about that character, that she, like you said, she fights. She doesn't run away. She doesn't scream. And
also too, when they do the reveal of in the outfit, that's I think one of the only times I'm smiling.
Yeah, that's true. And I think too, come to think of it, watching it again after you have that reveal and they have their whole dream thing, I think she becomes more confident in herself after that. In the real world, in the non-dream world, because she tends to talk a little bit more, and she's a little stronger. And I was thinking about something too. Wasn't it Taryn after the girl Jennifer that gets killed with the TV? Wasn't Taryn the one looking at the big burn mark on the wall? Wasn't that? Were you doing that?
I'm trying to think of. You mean my character?
Yeah, your character. That? Yeah.
When we did we come into that room and then look at the television?
Yeah, there was a scene. There was a scene later on, I think, where somebody was on the phone and they're in the TV room, and somebody was in the background, kind of looking at the big burn mark on the wall. And I swear it was Taryn, and I just thought that was kind of funny, like looking at it, like holy shit.
Funny if it was me just staring at the burn mark.
Yeah, like touching it, like holy shit, this actually happened.
Yeah, girl.
It's crazy. Now, how come there hasn't been a Taryn action figure?
Oh, probably because, I think Freddy and Heather are the super duper people. And then the Dream Warriors, I think they just, it's something that keeps building.
Sure.
And building and building and building. But if you think about how many years have I gone to cons, it's only been the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that movie's 30 years old, but there were cons the whole time.
Yeah.
So you just never, why? Well, I don't even understand how the whole con thing went past me for 10 years where somebody didn't even invite me.
I would have invited you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, maybe even Will, or I think because I think even one of the other Dream Warriors, maybe I went to one and then maybe another one. Like it was like no one ever even thought of it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But now it is con world.
Totally.
Like now it's like as soon as you're off of you do a zombie movie, you're at the con.
Right, like all the Walking Dead stars. Yeah.
Yeah, they go straight over to the con. Back in the day, we had an independent film market in the 80s, so you could do 4 pictures a year, 4 or 5, like Jodie did. You could really do it, but the business changed so much. You're going from video to DVD.
Mm-hmm.
You're having corporations buying up the small little companies. They never, there really wasn't so much. You know what they really should do is pull all that film out that they have, all bad movies, all good movies, and put them on DVD. Just call it like the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Hell yeah.
I'm
with you on that.
Crazy performances and doing fun stuff.
I'm with you on that because there's a lot of stuff. That's one of the reasons why I dig out my old VHS tapes, because there's a lot of stuff that's not on DVD or Blu-ray. Because whether it's rights issues or music issues, I mean, there was a TV show from 1987 called Werewolf. It was on Fox. It was like one of the first Fox television shows on their schedule when the network premiered.
Uh-huh.
And John J. York was in it. And the show was supposed to come out on DVD probably close to 10 years ago. And at the last minute, there was a music rights licensing issue that they didn't want to pay to have that music removed or have a temp track put on there, because I guess it served the scene very well. And whoever owns the music rights to that were like, pay us. And they were like, no, thanks. And the release got canceled, which is unfortunate because, it was a decent show, but there's a lot of movies like that where there's all kinds of, whether it's something little like that, like music licensing, or whoever owns the rights. And again, if you've listened to all 3 episodes now of Constriction Pictures, there's a thread with that I keep talking about my favorite movie, Dawn of the Dead, where the producer Richard Rubenstein, he owns the rights and he's kind of sitting on them right now, and the movie's out of print. It's not available. It's not fully available on DVD and Blu-ray. I mean, you can still find used copies, but he's sitting on it, and it's like, why? Put it out. That's a gold mine. But hey, some people they have their reasons, right?
Yeah, they don't need money.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice.
Yeah. But anyway, what are you working on now?
I'm writing my second screenplay.
Ooh, very nice.
It's a mother-daughter rivalry, and after I write the real thing, the reality of it, then I'm going to go sprinkle in sci-fi. Nice. Yeah, and it's when I write it's once I get going, not very far. I mean, once I start writing a couple of one scene, one scene, then I swear to God, that script starts telling me what it wants to be said. Like, I don't sit down and I don't do a lot of these things that structure-wise falls into place. Everything falls into place perfectly. I have my own little formula, and it starts telling me what it was. But when I was flying to your house on the plane working on this scene, I was like, oh, is that what I'm writing? Oh, so I'm just into the first. I have over 30 pages, and I have about 40 pages, so I'm over a third of the way done.
Awesome.
And yeah, so that's what I'm doing, and then I have my On the Weed Front movie.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the serious marijuana movie.
Right.
Everybody said you couldn't write a serious marijuana movie. I did.
Exactly.
And it's wonderful, and it's funny too.
Nice. It is very funny.
Right? Yeah. So I figure I'll have 3 scripts written, and then I will go around the world in film festivals and stuff, and just retire.
Excellent. And then you're going to come hang out here a lot, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be good times. All right. Well,
because it can be turned into a theater play.
Of course.
That will that'll generate income, and I'll have what I need, to have a really nice retirement.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks for asking.
Of course. Well, this has been a lot of fun, and I guess to wrap things up, thank you for coming. That's the important thing. But again, thank you for picking The Little Girl Who Lived Down the Lane. It was a great film. It was fun to watch. So if you guys out there listening right now, if you haven't seen it, I definitely recommend it. It definitely falls into that sort of quirky 70s, horror vibe. And again, maybe not necessarily horror, but it's definitely horror in my eyes. So check it out. And again, as always, thank you for listening out there. If you guys are listening right now, appreciate it. If you like what you hear, subscribe. Hopefully we'll have some more episodes coming soon. And again, thank you so much, Jennifer. It's awesome to have you.
Oh, yeah, sure, Bobby. You have a great voice.
Thank you. Everybody out there, we'll see you next time. And,
Should we sign off with, in our dreams, we're beautiful and bad.
Yeah, we're beautiful and bad. But you're more beautiful.
Wow.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you.
Bye, everybody.
Conquer the demon. But your horse is sinking in the bog. What do?
I go to bed and get a new horse in the morning.